Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the new Design Space tutorial section of Hops and Hospitality. I am excited to teach you how I learned to make monograms in Cricut Design Space, and we have several tutorials in the works. This was one of the first projects that I personally wanted to learn, so I thought I would bring it to you first as well. So we'll get started and jump right in here. I have already opened a new canvas and perfectly blank screen, so we can go ahead and just get started. On the left, you'll go ahead and click your text button, and you'll see that a text box will pop up. In this text, you will put the single letter that you'll be working with for your split letter monogram. So I will go ahead and just work with letter S, and we will drag it and make it nice and large so you can see. Now the default is Cricut Sans, and that's a good font for this project. A couple of quick pieces of advice: if this is your first split letter monogram, I would recommend that you stick with a simple font like this that is bold and symmetrical. It'll really help you understand what we're looking to get done with this project and help you get an eye for it so that you feel more comfortable and confident working with other fonts later on. So that said, I'm going to work with this letter S, and I'm going to start it out with changing the color. So let's go ahead and make this a bright blue so that we can see the letter we are working with along the way. Now scroll over to the left, and under the text box there is a shapes box. You want to click the shapes box, and then on the top left you want to insert a square. So I've just clicked that, and here is my square. Now you'll see there are 4 different icons on the square. You've got the red X, which means delete. You've got this kind of circular one, which means that you can rotate the shape. You've got the arrows, which drag the shape, make them larger and smaller. And then you've got the lock button. Now the lock icon is what keeps this shape proportional. So as I drag it, you will see that it always remains a square. The sides always remain the exact same proportion. For this project, we want them to be a long, thin rectangle. So we are going to click on the lock icon, and you'll see now it has unlocked. And if you scroll back over to the right here, what was the diagonal arrow is now a 4-way green arrow icon, which means that we can drag and drop this, or just drag it in any direction, and we don't have to keep the square proportions if we don't want to, which is perfect because right now we want to drag our rectangle into the middle of the shape and make a long flat rectangle. It doesn't matter how long because it will go away, so that part doesn't matter, but you do want to make it a height that feels right to you. And you want to picture everything that is underneath this box being permanently deleted. So that is going to be the piece that we split apart from our split letter monogram and fill in the name. So I like to just eyeball it. Some people, you may want to perfectly center it if you have a really nice symmetrical font. So you can hold down the shift key and click your letter as well. So now both items are highlighted. You can scroll up to Align on the top, find the drop-down menu, and you can find the way you want to center this. If you want it to be perfectly in the middle of the height, which would make sense for this project, you can center it vertically. And now that would be the exact middle of our shape. Or if you, I just did this to re-show you, but you can scroll down to center and it will do both, and go ahead and drag and drop it into the center of the shape altogether. So I like that, but personally, I like to see a little more of the shape, so I just kind of like it there. I eyeball it. That's how I tend to operate. So once you have it in the position that you like, you once again, you can hold down shift and click both, or the other option is you can hold down your left key and just drag it over the whole piece and see that both items are highlighted. You can also double check this by this right side menu. Both of these items are in gray, light gray or highlighted gray, which means they're both selected. See, you'll notice right now only the gray rectangle is selected. Right now only the blue S is selected. I can also do it here. Same thing, hold down shift and I can click it here in this menu and now both are selected. So once both are selected, scroll down to the bottom of the right side and you'll see this menu: slice, weld, attach, and flatten. In this one, we are going to slice. Once you click slice, what happens is the intersection of your letter and the box has cut apart everything in those layers. So if I drag and drop this piece, you'll see that my rectangle sliced out the middle of that letter. It left me the middle of the rectangle, so I still have my full rectangle if I wanted it. And it sliced out the piece that was underneath it of the blue letter S. So now we'll go ahead and use that red X delete button. You can do this one at a time, or you can also do the drag and drop or drag over and highlight both at once. You can also do it the same thing in the right side menu that I showed you just a second ago to hold down all of the layers at once. Now you'll notice this letter is all one piece, but it's missing the center. You can drag it and move it. You can resize it, and that's what you have to work with. So that's the first step. And that's the hardest step. So you're on a good track if you're following so far. Next, you want to add in another shape. So back to your left-hand menu, another square, and we are going to, oops, I don't need a circle. We are going to press the unlock button and make ourselves a long flat rectangle again, except this time it will be the final product that stays. So you do want to make sure it's sized appropriately. So the last one was just, let's call it a giant eraser, and it was erased once we were done with it. In this tool, it is going to be, we are making the actual lines of our final project. And so we want to make sure that we do like the look. You can do a thick line if you're doing a huge project and you want it to look right with the lines. You can make it incredibly minimal if you want the bars not to be too invasive. So I'll just go, I don't know, somewhere in the middle. That seems good to me. And so once you have the right size, go ahead and copy and paste. So I use my shortcut. I have a MacBook, so I hold down Command C for copy and Command V for paste. And you will make your two bars of the same size and they'll go right against these lines. Now, these you do want to make sure are perfectly aligned. So this is the great time that we'll go use that align tool like we did earlier. So right now it is not highlighted, but that's because we don't have any of our items highlighted, so it doesn't know what we're trying to work with. So here, I like to keep the bars together first. So I'll I'll hold down shift and click both items, and you'll see based on this outline, I got them pretty close, but not perfect. There's a little bit of an extra gap. They're a little bit offset. So now I'll go up to a line while they're both highlighted. And because they're the same size, you really could use most of these options to get them aligned. You could align left because the left sides will shift together. You could align right, or you could center horizontally. So I went ahead and did center horizontally, and now you'll see they are exactly parallel. Now, I like to go ahead and group things once I have them in a place I like relative to each other. You don't have to, but it does make it easier that you won't accidentally, now if I accidentally move that, these are at least aligned and I can still adjust with the letter S. So now you want to make sure they're where you want them with the letter S. You can put this perfectly in the center. And sometimes I like to work moving forward. If I had longer lines, sometimes if the letter doesn't turn out too symmetrical, or I'm working with a first name, sometimes I just like to have the letter here and then, move the bars out forward. But in this one, we'll just go ahead and once again highlight everything, and we'll decide to center this horizontally. And look how perfectly that snapped the letter S right into place and kept our bars where we want them. Now, the big thing to remember is to scroll over to the right, and we're going to hit weld. Now, if you're trying to understand the difference between attach and weld, we do have other tutorials on that, so I won't spend time here, but in this case, you will want to weld to make sure that this is all one piece. Now, you've got your split letter monogram. With this, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. You can size it, change it around. What you won't be able to do once you weld is kind of readjust if you realize now, oh, it's a little lower than I would have liked. That is a piece you'll have to go back and reslice everything, but that's okay because that's a great way to learn. So now I'll start a new text box, and let's just go ahead and we'll do the name Sally. You can drag the name Sally right up here, and same thing, and we've shown this in the text tutorial, but I like to just eyeball everything that I'm working with, so I won't be too particular here, but there are two important options. If you want your split letter monogram to be one color, this blue, and you want the name inside to be a different color. So for instance, right now it's black, but we can go ahead and make it kind of a gold orange fun color. We'll go with a beach theme. If you want it to be a separate color, you do not want to click the attach button. And I'll show you right here. If I attach these, it will change all to one color because it is telling Cricut Design Space to attach these and print in this exact order when it prints out the vinyl. And because we don't want this name the same color, we wouldn't want it printing in this order on the blue vinyl. So I'm going to detach, and that's the nice feature of attach and detach. They're an easy fix. I'll go ahead and make Sally this nice gold again. And this is one way that you can have this look. Now the other way is to stretch the word enough so that both the top and the bottom of the letters are just slightly overlapping. And here we can zoom in if it helps. And you will be able to hold down the shift key, click them both again, and weld the way that we did with the letter S and the bars. And when you do that, you will see this is why you want them to overlap, because now they will perfectly align with the bars that you made going through the monogram. And this is probably what most people do when you see the monogram, and you'll see this process you might want to play around with a little bit. I'm not thrilled with kind of how far in the L kind of blends a little funny here into the S for me, but again, that's something you can work with and play around with all you want. But that gets you to the split letter monogram.